There is a sentence I have been practicing for longer than my marriage lasted, 14 years. It sits right here, between my collarbones, like something swallowed that never went down. I have said it to 2 therapists and 1 woman in a church basement in Ohio. I have never said it where someone could see my face while I said it. I have started this 6 times. I wrote the rest of the script first because I was afraid of this part, the part where I tell you I'm going to try. I am 31 years old. I left my community 4 years ago. The sentence is older than my leaving. I'm holding something in my lap right now. I'll explain it later. Stay with me. I pulled back just now. I felt the sentence arrange itself and I stepped sideways. I need a moment before I go back. My name is Emma, and this is Emma the Amish Soul. If you want to be here while I find the words, and I am going to find them, subscribe. Stay in this room with me. If there is something you have carried in your own body that you have never said where someone could hear it, I want you to know this space exists for that. Joining as a member or leaving a super chat keeps this space open, keeps the lights on in the room where unspeakable things get spoken. I'm going back in now. The sentence is closer than it was. Where I come from, girls are not told about the wedding night. I need you to understand that this is not an oversight. It is not that our mothers forgot or that the subject simply never came up. The silence is built. It is architectural. In my community, a girl learns to keep a home before she learns to read well. She learns to submit to her father and then to her husband. She learns the word Gelassenheit, the yielding of the self, and she learns it applies to everything: her opinions, her preferences, her ambitions, her body, especially her body. What she is not taught, what no one teaches her, is that her body is a thing that can want, that it might have its own responses, its own language. That language is removed before she ever learns it. The silence is the curriculum. I have a pillowcase in my lap. I brought it here from a box I keep in my closet, a box I have not opened in 2 years. The stitching along the edge was done by my grandmother. Small, even stitches in white thread on white cotton, so you can only see them if you hold the fabric at an angle to the light. My grandmother made it for my mother's hope chest, and my mother gave it to me the week before my wedding. She did not explain why. She folded it and placed it on top of the other linens, and her hand stayed on it for a moment longer than necessary. I did not understand the pause then. I understand it now. She was handing me the last soft thing I would hold before I entered a room I was not prepared for. I was 17 when I married. I want to say I was young, but in my community, 17 was not young. It was ready. I had been ready since I could cook a full meal and mend a shirt without being asked. What I had not been made ready for was the part of marriage that happened after the doors closed. I knew it existed. I knew it the way I knew there was a country called Australia. Distantly, without detail, as a fact that did not yet require my body. My older sister had married 2 years before me. One afternoon, washing dishes, she started to say something. I remember her hand stopping in the water. Her mouth opened. She looked at the window above the sink, not through it, at the glass itself. And then her hand started moving again, and she said, "The biscuits turned out well today." She could not finish. I did not push her. I think now about what she was trying to say. I think she was trying to hand me a word she herself had never been given. My wedding day was in November. I remember the weight of my dress. I had sewn it myself from dark blue fabric, and the seams sat heavy on my shoulders the way a hand sits on you when someone is holding you in place. I remember my mother's fingers adjusting the pins at my collar. I remember the meal afterward, the long tables, the laughter, the way my husband sat beside me and his knee touched mine beneath the table, and I felt a hollow open behind my ribs. Not fear exactly, not yet, but the space where fear would later live. After the guests left, we rode to the house where we would live. The horse's hooves were loud on the frozen road. I watched my hands in my lap. They were shaking. I pressed them flat against my skirt and held them there, the way you hold a lid on something that is trying to open. I did not know why they were shaking. My body knew something my mind had not been given permission to name. The room was small. Someone had made the bed. I never learned who. The quilt was my mother's, a pattern called double wedding ring, and the pillowcase was there, my grandmother's, smooth and white against the dark fabric. There was a lamp on the bedside table, kerosene because we had no electricity, and it threw amber light across everything, the color of honey held up to a window. I stood alone in that room for 3 minutes, while my husband spoke with his father downstairs. 3 minutes. I stood by the window and looked at the yard, at the dark shapes of the trees, at the frost forming on the glass, and I did not know that those were the last 3 minutes I would stand inside my own body without a rule telling me how to hold it. I did not know that then. I know it now. I am holding the pillowcase in my lap, and I know it now. When he came into the room, I keep doing this. I keep starting at the moment he spoke, and the sentence stops in my throat. It is right here. I can feel it like a stone sitting on my tongue. But the sentence is not about what he said. That is what I keep getting wrong. It is about what I did not have, what I had never been given before he said it. I need you to understand the empty space before I can show you what was put inside it. I thought I could just say the rule. I thought I could open my mouth and the 14 years would not matter, and I would just say it. I cannot. Not yet. Not because the rule is complicated, because it was simple. The simplicity is the part that, let me try differently. The week before the wedding, my mother sat with me in the kitchen. The men had gone. She poured no coffee. She did not look at me directly. She spoke 3 sentences. I have never forgotten them. She said, "He will come to you at night. You will hold still and you will let him. It will be over quickly." 3 sentences. That was the whole of it. My entire preparation for the most intimate act of my life. Hold still, let him, it ends. There was no mention of my body, no acknowledgement that I might feel something, pain, fear, confusion, want, revulsion, anything. My body was not a subject in those 3 sentences. It was a location, a place where something would happen to someone else. My mother was not cruel. My mother was prepared, the way a woman is prepared when she is handing her daughter the same sealed envelope she herself received, never opened, never questioned. She was giving me what she had been given, which was how to disappear inside a room with someone and call it love. 4 years into my marriage, I was hanging laundry on the line behind the house. It was September, still warm, and the sheets were heavy with water and smelled like the lye soap I made every spring. My neighbor, an older woman, married 30 years, her name was Ruth, stood at the fence line between our properties. We talked about nothing, the weather, the canning, the price of fabric in town, and then she said something I have carried alongside my other sentence for a decade. She said, "You get used to it." 3 words. She was not looking at me when she said them. She was looking at the sheets on the line, the way my sister had looked at the window glass. And I heard what lived underneath, that there was an it, that the it was known, that every woman on that road carried the it in her body, and none of them had ever called it by name. I almost asked her. I opened my mouth, and then I thought, if she names it, I will have to know it, and if I know it, I cannot unknow it, and if I cannot unknow it, I will have to say my sentence. And I was not ready for my sentence. I closed my mouth. She went back to her garden. I finished the laundry. The pillowcase was in the basket. I picked it up and held it against my chest for a long time, standing there, alone, between the sheets drying in the late summer air. I am closer now. I am closer. I am going back into the room now. Not from the outside this time. Not from the yard, not from the kitchen, not from the safe distance of context and history. I am inside. The lamp is lit and the light is amber orange, the color of something burning slowly, and it moves on the walls when the draft comes under the door. The quilt is beneath me. I can feel the stitching through the fabric of my nightgown. Small ridges, like braille, like someone sewed a message into the cloth that I was never taught to read. The pillowcase is under my hands, my grandmother's thread under my fingers. The air in the room is cold, November cold, the kind that sits on your skin like a second skin, and I can hear him climbing the stairs. Each step has a sound. I counted them then without knowing I was counting. I count them now. There were 9. 9 steps between the world where I was still only mine and the world where I would learn the rule. He came through the door and he was nervous. I did not recognize it as nervousness then. I thought it was authority, because I had been taught that a husband's discomfort looks like command. But I see his face now with different eyes. His jaw was tight. His hands were opening and closing at his sides. He had been told what to do by his father the same way I had been told what to allow by my mother, and he carried his own script into that room, a script that gave him permission but not tenderness, that gave him access but not language. He sat on the edge of the bed and the mattress shifted under his weight, and I was standing by the window, still, my hands still on the glass, and he said my name, just my name. And then he said I should come sit beside him, and I did. I sat with the pillowcase between my hands, and I held it the way you hold something when you know the water is about to go over your head. He told me what he expected. I need to say this carefully, not because you will not understand, but because I have described this moment in the wrong language for 14 years, and I'm trying right now to find the right one. He did not raise his voice. He did not grab me. He spoke the way a man speaks when he is reciting something he memorized. Practiced, certain, gentle even, the way you are gentle with an animal you are leading somewhere it does not want to go. He said that this was his right, that I was his wife, that my place was to receive him and to be still and to not make it difficult. That was the word, difficult, not painful, not frightening, not confusing, difficult, as though my feeling anything would be an inconvenience, as though my body's response was a logistical problem to be managed. The rule was not spoken as cruelty. It was spoken as weather, as fact, as the way the world was made. And I understood, not with my mind. My mind had nothing to work with, no counter-script, no alternative, no single voice that had ever told me a wife's body was allowed to have its own opinion. I understood with my body. My body understood that it was not the subject of what was about to happen. My body understood that its responses, whatever they might have been, fear or pain or something I will never know because I never got the chance to find out, were not relevant. My body understood the assignment. And so I did what I was taught. I lay down on my grandmother's pillowcase, and I put myself somewhere else. I went to the place where the laundry smells like lye soap, and the September wind moves the sheets. I went to the kitchen where my sister's hands stopped in the dishwater. I went to a field I used to walk through as a girl, where the grass was so tall it closed over my head, and I could disappear entirely. I went there, and I did it so well, so completely, that I could not find my way back. Not that night, not the next week, not for years. I didn't know I was allowed to feel anything, so I taught myself to feel nothing. That is the sentence. That is what I have been carrying. I am going to sit with it for a moment. I am going to let it be in the room. There was a woman, I will call her M. I met her 3 years ago in a support group for women who had left plain communities. A church basement in Ohio, folding chairs, burnt coffee, a circle of women who looked like they had each swallowed something they could not digest. I sat in that circle for 6 weeks without speaking. I held my pillowcase in my bag. I brought it with me every time, though I never took it out. I listened. Women talked about their children, their finances, their faith, their anger. And then one evening, Em spoke. She was small, dark-haired, quiet the way I am quiet. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she was still learning that her voice was a thing she was permitted to use. She said, "I didn't know my body was supposed to feel something too." She said it simply, almost confused by it, like she had only just discovered that other women experienced their own bodies as places where sensation was welcome. And something in me broke, not the breaking of damage, but the breaking of ice in March, when the creek begins to move again after months of being held still. I heard her sentence, and inside it I found the first word of mine. The word was allowed. I had never once in my life applied that word to my own body. After Em spoke, I began to look for the language. It took months. It took a therapist. The third one, the one who did not flinch when I described the room. She listened to me describe the going away, the field, the disappearing, the years of lying still and being somewhere else. And she said a word I had never heard used about me. She said I had dissociated. She said my body had learned to leave because the room was not a place where my body was allowed to remain. And so it found the only exit available to a girl with no language and no permission. It left without leaving. She said this was not a failure. She said this was what a body does when it is told that its presence is irrelevant. It agrees, it goes, and then it cannot come back because no one ever tells it that it is welcome. I said to her, "Is that what it is called, when you teach yourself not to exist?" And she said, "Yes, that is exactly what it is called." I held the pillowcase in my hands in her office, and I cried for the first time in a way that was not silent, in a way that made sound, that took up space, that was, for the first time, allowed. I want to tell you that saying this sentence has made it lighter. It has. But I want to tell you the truth, which is that it has also made it heavier. Because now I hold not only the sentence, but the years I carried it without speaking. I grieve for both of us in that room, for the girl on the pillowcase and for the boy on the edge of the bed. Both of them handed scripts by people who loved them. Both of them performing roles that cost them everything soft. I grieve for my mother, who gave me 3 sentences because 3 sentences were all she had ever been given. Because her mother gave her the same 3. Because the silence was so old it had become indistinguishable from love. I grieve for Ruth at the fence line, who said, "You get used to it." Because getting used to it means getting used to your own absence. And that is not endurance. That is erosion. I am not angry at the people. I cannot be. They were inside the silence too. I am angry at the silence itself, at the rule that said a woman's body is a room where things happen to other people. If there is a sentence you have been carrying in your body, not in your mind, in your body, between your ribs or behind your sternum or at the base of your throat, and it has been there so long you have confused it with a bone, I want you to know, it is not a bone. It is a sentence. It has words. It can be said. If your mother gave you silence and called it preparation, if you have held still and gone somewhere far away and come back and called it fine, if you taught yourself to feel nothing because someone told you your feeling was not the point, it was the point. It was always the point. You are always the subject of your own body. The sentence you are carrying is yours to speak whenever you are ready. And if you are not ready today, I want you to know, I was not ready for 14 years. The sentence did not leave. It waited. It will wait for you. And when you say it, in a church basement, in a therapist's office, in an empty room, into a camera, into the air, you will not break. You will not shatter. You will set down something heavy and you will stand in the room with your own voice and you will hear it and it will be yours. The first rule of intimacy was silence. I am finished following it.